welcoming you to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6 and a conversation with Billy King. I don't quite know how to describe you, Billy.
I don't either.
Okay. Billy's a wonderful man, great storyteller, and now has become an official historian, amateur historian or whatever. Has been responsible for
don't say that.
a lot of the renovation in Mercer, Denmark, and all these other things, and continues to explore this county. The website is bigblackcreekhistorical.com. bigblackcreekhistorical.com, that you say now is the premier history site on Google and Yahoo and all that stuff.
MSN, all three.
Okay.
It's ranked #1 in
Number
history.
one, okay.
And our Facebook page too, and it's just Big Black Creek.
Okay.
And it changes daily. It's a constant change.
Well, now you've started
It's drawing 1,600 views a week, and that's more than the city of Jackson.
Okay.
So
Now,
downtown Denmark.
Okay, and you've also started a John Lee Sonny Boy Williamson Facebook page, right, or something?
Yes,
I've seen
we
some
have. Sure have. You see that too.
See that too,
Right.
and photos that people had not known existed. So
That's right.
So Billy's finding out all kinds of things. It's always a pleasure to talk with him. BigBlackCreekHistorical.com. The Big Black Creek Historic Organization does what?
Have a lot of parties.
Okay.
No. Primarily, it is a historical group, and that's what we do. We research history, cemeteries. We belong to Find a Grave, so people looking for grave sites. And I mentioned to you a while ago, we have located 52 cemeteries in a 10-mile radius around Denmark. But of course, most of those are old family cemeteries.
Okay. But they were not known.
No.
I mean, you knew about the Denmark Presbyterian Cemetery,
Right.
I guess the ones that were at the churches.
Right.
But you just found a cemetery at Hatchie Station.
Hatchie Station, right, that we didn't have any idea was there.
And one of the graves, someone was born in 1800 and died in 1815.
That's right. A young
With
lady.
a marker.
Sarah Holloman was her name, married to Malachi.
Okay.
And we think she probably died in childbirth. Okay. And probably that cemetery was connected with a church, and there are no churches at Hatchie Station anymore, and we only know of one ever being there. And this would predate even that. So I have a feeling, and I told you this a while ago, Frank, it was Campbellite.
Frank McMean.
Yeah.
Okay,
We think.
There may have been some Campbellites out there.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll see. The thing about this is that an 1815 date, the treaty that opened this area, Tennessee's border ended at the Tennessee River, and this area between the Tennessee River and the Mississippi River was not part of Tennessee when the state was formed and officially recognized in 1796. The Chickasaws had titled this land, or titled it was their land. 1818, the treaty was signed.
That's right.
Counties such as Madison are organized in 1821, Jackson in 1822. There were people obviously not already here. They were settled and put tombstones up in 1815, which predates
and
everything.
that's the third one we found that dates back that far.
So Billy, how would they have gotten here, and why did they settle here?
They settled because of the land in this area more specifically.
But they didn't have title to this land, right?
Well, they couldn't find the Chickasaw courthouse. That's what I told them.
Of course, I mean, the Chickasaws, it wouldn't have been given this up. They obviously allowed them to be here.
Well, the Chickasaws would sell land. We know that now.
Okay.
They actually would sell it.
Sell land to
or
settlers.
they would give it, such things as that. So, and then I expect many more intermarried than we really realize. You know, we did a whole research on Tina Turner's ancestors, of course, and know that she is from Choctaw Indian. And you can look at her and tell that, her high cheekbones, and we think her family was in here. So the settlers were marrying into the Indian tribes, and the three Indian tribes, this particular area, all three of them existed in it. The main ones was the Chickasaws, but the Choctaw and the whatever that other one is.
Okay, all right, so they all used this area, right?
Yes, it was kind of a melting pot, West Tennessee was for them.
And they hunted here.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, Denmark, that's where it got its name. Denmark, the animal dens in the area, and that's what they named it after. The land here, and we don't always think about that, but some of the richest land in the whole area is right here in this community where we are. Today, the cotton prices of cotton raised in this community averages about 5 cents more per pound than anywhere else in America.
Is that right?
So, and you know, we only have 2 gins left, but one at Mercer and one at Bemis, of course. That's the 2 cotton gins
that are left.
But they do a bale every 3 minutes.
Okay, so we talk about how rapidly things change. I mean, it's difficult to envision that in 1818, 1820, when all this, I mean, because this area, as you say, from Crockett County, Haywood County, Fayette. I mean,
Right.
slave populations grow immensely. Agriculture. I mean, you're clearing land starting from scratch.
Yes.
In 1821, 22, 23,
Yes.
whatever, and then within a few years, you got a mark on the New Orleans market, right,
That's
for the
right.
cotton.
That's what they were doing, taking the cotton, and you and I have talked about that many times, to Estonale, because the flatboats and the steamboats could easily get to Estonale. We know now probably as many as 1 or 2 a day were coming to Estonale. A few of them could get up to Hatchie Station, and a few of them could get as far as Bolivar, or Hatchie Town is what Bolivar was called at that time.
Okay.
Those were built for that specific purpose. The actual steamboat turnaround is at Hatchie Station.
Okay.
So the larger ones, that's as far as they could get is Hatchie Station.
So Hatchie Station is further upriver from
right,
Estonale?
about 4 miles upriver from your place,
From
Estonale.
okay.
Right.
I talk about Estonale. I've never figured out how to spell Estonale, and apparently it was spelled many different ways,
That's
right?
right. There are many.
Estonale, Estonale, and,
And see, the Northerners could never say that, so the troops had a terrible time, even knowing where they were. That trail, by the way, comes from Bertie, North Carolina. And a lot of our settlers came down that trail, actually.
From North Carolina into
and the
Estonale.
crossing at the river, your place, Estonale, that means here we cross in the Chickasaw language. And we're talking now all the time about Hatchie Station, but I think the railroad named that. Now, I think there was an Indian trail there, because just up from there was a village, and normally even our settlers would have settled where those trails were. How else would they got in here? You know, you'd have been in the wilderness.
So, Billy, when we talk about Indian trails and something from Carolina to whatever, we don't think about that kind of movement among Native people or trade going on, but apparently it was.
Oh, yeah, very much so. The Chickasaws were trading with the French in the 1400s, and they were coming right up the Hatchie River. The French were coming from New Orleans up to Mississippi.
To trade for what?
Fur.
Okay.
They were trading fur is what they were doing.
Okay.
And they could easily get to Estonale, you know. The first record we have of Estonale printed in a newspaper is in the oldest paper in Tennessee, in Nashville, and it mentions a fight at Estonale, and we're like in the 1500s, somewhere in there.
You're kidding.
Yeah, so, you know, don't go down there now, because you're getting...
Okay, at Estonale. If you come into Jackson, obviously Main Street is not Main Street anymore.
No.
You know, and it's not just words from a song. I mean, if you see those historic houses on East Main, you say, well, this was Main Street. Now it would be I-40 or the bypass or 45 or whatever, right? I mean, so it's difficult to envision a city, you know, before the railroads. Yeah. And then when the railroads came, that redrew everything.
Well, there weren't any cities. You know, basically you just had the Indian
villages. Okay.
And you know, we are in the process of excavating a village there at Denmark. And they got a grant through the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian first discovered those mounds there in 1920. So they've known they were there all along.
But they thought they were burial mounds.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly right. Okay. And then this last group through Memphis State brought in all the ground searching equipment and went over it. And we know that the village covered about 5 acres and would have been about 500 people in that village.
Okay.
And they're carbon dating everything at 1000 AD. So that's when the village was actually there.
Okay.
But now there's one also now going into Hatchie Station. There's a village. But see, they followed those creeks. The Denmark one was following the Big Black Creek.
Okay.
But the one on over was Clover Creek, which comes out of Meaden, and then it hits the river very close to Hatchie Station.
Well, the one thing you have to survive is water.
That's right. Okay. And they always built on land where there was water close by. Right.
Billy King is with us. We'll continue this conversation. This is Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. Welcome back to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6 as we continue a conversation with Billy King, who has led a lot of the research and work that has been done through the Big Black Creek Historical Association or Society. What is it, Big Black Creek Historical?
We don't care.
It doesn't matter, okay. The website is bigblackcreekhistorical.com.
Only the Internal Revenue cares.
Okay, yeah, that's the truth. bigblackcreekhistorical.com, so be sure to check that out. We talked about the settlement of this area, or not the settlement, but the people that were here, and it goes back to 1000 AD.
That's
I mean,
right.
there one here before, Chickasaws.
Right.
But you follow the Indian trails, and they are on water. You settle with water. You have to have water to live, and so you go creeks. But these trails connect, and you say all the way to the Carolinas.
Right.
And so there was much more
See,
mobility.
yours, when you go at Estonale, and you can see across through there now, that goes to the Chickasaw Bluffs in Memphis. Matter of fact, that was the first stagecoach route also. It went right through your town of Estonale.
Estonale, okay.
Yeah. There were two hotels there, so we could stay
Billy took me
there.
down to Estonale a couple of years ago. We did a thing about it on TV6, and there's nothing down there. I mean, it's just a spot on the river, and it's just like, and you realize Madison County had a river port. We had a river port,
Yes,
and a
we
big
did.
one. And as you say, 2 steamships a day. They
That's
could
right.
get all the way up there from the Mississippi River.
Right.
But then you go back into the 1400s, and the French are coming up here and trading with the native population in this area in the 1400s for furs.
Right.
I mean, so there's this, the history goes back so much further than we want to, well, I guess than we realize.
One of the things that we have discovered through all of this is that history goes in 2 directions.
Okay.
It goes back, it goes forward, but it goes backward also. And you never know where the backward's going to end, and we certainly have found that out in a lot of the
Is it not
stories.
astounding that some people come from France and wind up in Estonale in
right.
1400?
That's right.
Right.
That's
I mean, it's just like, are you guys crazy? I mean, you know.
And who knows how much further back.
Right.
you
I mean,
know.
because this is like 1492 Columbus or something, right? I mean, so this is just, it's
Well, see, when
stunning.
we talk about the Abears, which were the first trading posts
Right.
with the Chickasaws in what's now Denmark, that's the French pronunciation of Herbert.
Okay.
So when we talk about Mr. Hobbit Alexander, they would really call him Abear.
Abear, okay.
That's what they would call him.
Okay,
right.
all right. So this activity in North America is contemporaneous. I mean, it's going on all through the 1500s here.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, interesting stuff, and ties in. When you look at it now, and because there is nothing in Estonale, I mean, it's just a small area. If you went down there, you'd have no idea that anything was ever there.
And there were 2 hotels there.
Okay.
There was a racetrack there. It was a gambling mecca is what it was, and
Okay.
we're planning to reopen all of that.
Okay, well, get out of the waterway,
See,
right?
if we were in Louisiana, we could declare it an Indian
That's
site.
right, an Indian site.
Get us an Indian.
International waters. It connects to the Mississippi River, which connects to the Gulf, right? Which connects to the world.
But there
right?
was a lot of activity, and really what was happening, the steamboats, I mean passenger boats, were coming to Estonale, and they would stay over the weekend at the hotels. The Merriweathers had a hotel there, and the McBrides both, and they could gamble. And then you could get back on the boat and go back to Memphis the next day. So you would overnight.
So
and
it was
then-
our first Tunica or Las Vegas or
It was
whatever.
the first tourist attraction in West Tennessee. I tell Lori that all the time.
so we need to get back to that. But Madison County has a port on the Hatchie that connects to the Mississippi, that
Right.
connects to the world.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And we had one here too. I don't want to make Linda mad.
Okay.
It was Port Jackson,
Port Jackson.
of course, which was on the Forkadere.
Forkadere.
The problem is the Forkadere water would not rise as high as the Hatchie did.
Okay.
And matter of
So
fact,
it was not as navigable.
that's right. Hatchie's coming out of Mississippi, and their places, the Hatchie River's a mile wide.
All right.
And so,
So when these settlers are coming in, are they taking the Indian Trail and coming in by land, or are they taking the river?
part of them are coming the Indian Trail. The Estonale ones really are because they're coming out of North Carolina, North and South Carolina and Virginia.
So you follow
That's
the
where they're-
Indian Trails. They know how to get through the mountains.
Exactly.
Okay.
And see, I believe that there's an Indian Trail at what we keep calling Hatchie Station. And one of the reasons I believe that is the Purtle family had a ferry boat there. Well, if there wasn't a trail there, you said, what would you do with a ferry boat? You
right.
know? So obviously, it was there. Of course, now you can follow the road right down to Hatchie Station, but the other side has like grown over, and it's back in tremendous woods land now. Is what it really is. But
How
that
long
was
did-
a logging community.
How long did that
also.
last? Estonale is still being used during the Civil War.
Yes. It was still being used in the 1940s. About 1947 is when the ferry closed at Estonale.
In 47.
See, you could have gone down. You
I
were
could have
old
gone
enough
down.
to ride.
I could have made that trip or gotten close. All right. But now, like I said, I guess how we not only redraw the map, there's nothing there. You would have no indication.
Well,
that,
I just left the mayor's office talking about redrawing the map.
Okay.
Haywood County claims Hatchie Station. And we did a little survey really just a month ago and working on it.
Okay.
And they went up to the bridge and they cut the line. So some people at Hatchie Station live in Madison County and some live in Haywood County. And the story is that the road department started doing that. And so our mayor, Jimmy Harris, and Smith in Haywood County are both claiming the land.
Just in case the gambling casino goes back in there.
That's right. They think Big Black Creek will build a casino there.
Billy, when Jackson is settled, Denmark and all these other places, what is the role of Estonale in connection with that?
It was a shipping port for it. As a matter of fact, the old Tufel stores that were here were ordering their dry goods out of St. Louis, and it was being shipped to Estonale. And there were warehouses there. And the Tufels had ox carts that would go from here down to Estonale to bring the dry goods into the stores here. So I'm sure many other stores in Jackson were using that as a port also. They could order from Memphis or St. Louis, either one, and really come right there. And then later on, when the railroad was put in, then they certainly could do that. And it was logging, tremendous logging up and down there, and especially Hatchie. Hatchie had two great big sawmills.
Did they ship cotton from there then to the ports?
Oh, gosh, yes. Matter of fact, that's why Estonale played such a tremendous role in the Civil War. Cotton was a commodity that the northern mills were in desperate need of. And the British government was too, everybody was. And so the 30th Illinois was camped often at Estonale to protect that cotton. And if they thought they were going to lose it, they'd burn it. And matter of fact, they burnt 3,000 bales of cotton at Estonale to keep the Southern Army from getting that cotton.
Because they didn't want them to have the cash.
The Heberts, they were big cotton traders. They were probably some of the biggest farmers. And they had about 150 slaves, actually. They were selling their cotton to the British government because Britain paid gold for the cotton. And so they would take it to Estonale, and Britain would have representatives there buying it.
Would buy it in gold.
That's right. And then later on, Hebert got mad at Madison County over the tariff that it was charging on the cotton. And so Bill Hebert packed everything up, and his slaves also, and they moved to Brownsville, Texas. And he went back in the cotton business in a very big way. His brother was Stephen. He sent Stephen ahead of him to buy land for all this entourage. And he told the slaves they could either go free or go with him to Texas. They all went with him to Texas, right. And he had a very famous cousin who went with him to Texas. And since I'm looking at the courthouse, it was David Crockett. Their mother was a Crockett. And so
Hebert's mother was Crockett.
That's right, she was a Crockett. So they were cousins of David Crockett. And the story is that when Stephen left here to go buy all the land, David went. And somewhere along the way, they got separated. And
he wound up down.
Yeah, he had a little problem, you know, later on.
Wow. So that cotton, so Estonale then is a key point. That Harper's Weekly sketch, when the Union occupied Jackson, shows a cotton fort, that the Union troops built a fort out of cotton. I guess would take it stack up then. So there was a ton of cotton in this area. Would they just confiscate that cotton, take possession of it?
Yeah, they would do that exactly. And after the Heberts went, he was still selling his cotton to the British government, and he was taking it down into Mexico and meeting.
Which you were not supposed to be doing, right? If you were from the South, you're supposed to cut it off.
That's right. And he got captured prisoner with all the gold from 179 bales of cotton, actually, he just sold the British government. He told the slaves to melt the grease in the grease buckets on the back of the wagons and put the gold in the bottom and then put the grease back on them, because the Northerners would never figure that out.
Never dig through the grease.
And they made him sweep the streets of Brownsville, Texas, and he passed away from that. He was in his 70s by this time.
So he died as a prisoner.
And the slaves then took the wagons and the gold and went back to the plantation themselves.
Did his family then eventually
the sons were in the war. They were off in the war. And when they came home, they wanted to go get his body, and they did, and exhumed it and took it back to the plantation, the family cemetery.
So he's buried in Brownsville.
No.
He came back here?
We think he's out at Denmark.
Is that right?
The cemetery washed away. The family cemetery washed away. And it washed the body away, and they never recovered his body. And there's a story out there by a genealogist, a doctor genealogist in Texas, who presented this to the Genealogical Association of Texas. And he calls it the story of the elusive Bill. Now, you've heard Bill's story before.
Hang on that story. We're going to come back and tell this. Because, you know, if a man washes it away, that's just the beginning of the end, or the end of the beginning. Billy King is with us. This is Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. Welcome back to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. If you're just joining us, you need to catch up. Go back and catch us on replay or on the YouTube channel or something, because we've been all around Estonali and beyond with Mr. Billy King. All right, so the elusive Bill Hebert. His body washes away in Brownsville. He dies there during
We're going to go back before Bill married.
Before Bill married. So we're back in Tennessee.
The back end of this story and came forward.
All right, so we're back in Tennessee.
That's right. We're back in Tennessee, and the Hebert brothers had a trading post on the Big Black Creek in conjunction with the Chickasaws. They were in partners with the Chickasaws. And Estonali was up and going, the steamboats were coming in, and they sent Bill, who was not married at the time, to buy dry goods for the trading post. And he gets on the boat, and of course, it's one of the gambling boats out of Memphis, and it starts down the hatchie, and Bill gets to gambling, and he loses all the store's money, is what he did. So he convinced the captain to send word to his brother John in Denmark and tell him that he'd fallen overboard and drowned.
With all the money.
I really don't think John believed that. I don't really know what John believed, of course, but evidently Bill was quite a character, and John certainly knew it. So he decided that he would have a mock funeral for Bill. And so he had a coffin made, and one night at 12 o'clock, he rang that bell at the Denmark church. Now, that old bell, you can hear it for 4 miles ringing. That's how loud it is. And, of course, everybody came because it was a sign that something was going on. And so everybody shows up at the Denmark church, and Bill has this coffin made, and he already has dug a grave across in front of the church in the old Big Black Creek Cemetery. 6 slaves carried the coffin down the aisle and out the other aisle, across the street, and they buried the coffin in the Big Black Creek Cemetery. The only problem is Bill showed up for his own funeral. So that's the first part of the story. We knew that part of the story. And then we had several other little stories, but when this doctor did all the research, and he was doing DNA research, he uncovered really the tail end of the story. The Heberts still own all the land in Texas. They're a very wealthy family still, so it's the descendants of it. But we always laugh and say that's the ghost at the Denmark church that Bill came back to Denmark.
And washed away in Texas. May still have come back home.
He got married in that church. That's where he married.
Billy, I guess one of the reasons you obviously enjoy doing this. Why are you doing this? I mean, you're retired. You could do anything.
Otherwise, I'd be hanging out in bars and drunk.
You know?
Well,
I mean, the restoration of the church
don't know
at
this,
Denmark,
of course, but I worked for the state of Louisiana my last several years in working, and it was in historic sites. And matter of fact, my office was in a slave cabin at Kent House in Alexander, Louisiana. That's the oldest standing house in central Louisiana. And I got very interested in history, and when I got back here, you know, just sitting with some cousins, honestly, and just said, well, wonder how much history there is in this community that we haven't uncovered. And we went all over the community, identifying that something happened here and here and here. And then we looked at endangered buildings that we were going to lose if something didn't happen, and the old Denmark church being one of them. And then we own the Ebenezer Cumberland Church in Mercer. That belongs to Big Black Creek also. And we own several other buildings that we have managed now to preserve. The Denmark church being the largest project that we undertook. We have spent pretty close to $700,000 on the Denmark church. And of course, it was built in 1854, so it's one of the oldest buildings. I like to tell you this, it's the mother church of the Presbyterians.
That it is, that it is. Much to the chagrin of those of us at first, but and it's magic when you go out there. The Presbyterians are going out there once a year now.
That's right.
And it's a good thing to keep.
And the redback singing.
That's the attempted Baptist takeover out there.
The Pentecostal.
The redback hymnal, Pentecostal, redback hymnal sing out there.
I have to tell you this. Horace Simmons plays for that. And of course, he's an outstanding pianist. As a matter of fact, we have about 3 or 4 that come in and play for the redback singing. And you have to be a special kind of pianist to play that old gospel music.
Gospel shape note stuff.
Well, Horace wanted to come down and practice when anybody wasn't there, and so I met him there, and he played for a while. Horace grew up Pentecostal, even though he's the First Baptist Bemis organist now. And Horace is very animated. And so he gets up off the piano after playing some, and he said, Bill, I just tell you what, the Holy Ghost gonna fall on the Denmark church. Well, it did. Horace
well,
was right. The Holy
is-
Ghost fell on the Denmark church.
It amazes me that you've been able to find 50 cemeteries in an area, and most of them not known.
That's right.
I mean, known maybe to the landowners, whatever, but not known collectively and everything
That's
else. And
right.
so it continues to open this window further and further into the history
You
of
can
this area.
see most of those on the Big Black Creek website.
Okay.
Our webmaster does a tremendous job. And that's how we found Sonny Boy Williams, to be honest
Okay,
with you. We
okay.
were looking with the family, the Neely family, for some of their burial, and then just stumbled into this huge kudzu
Right.
park and went up in it, and there was a new tombstone there. We went to it, and it was Sonny Boy. So that's at Blair's Chapel, is where
yeah.
it is.
That was, Judy Pendle, Mike Baker, Jack Wood Library.
That's
had
right.
been responsible for putting that stone
That's
there.
right, RCA
And
Records.
It just RCA Records through a bunch of work. So every thread leads to another.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
It
It's
is.
going to continue.
Yeah.
And your work at work. Billy came out with a series, Big Black Creek Historical Volume 1, which is a good way to begin because it assumes there's going to be a Volume 2. How many have we got now?
You told me I had to do 10. I'm working on 4 right now.
Right now.
But keep in mind, I'm 79
Well,
years
there you
old,
go.
too. So.
I said, Billy, you can order all 10 of them in advance if you go ahead and buy them now. It is fascinating that work is continuing, and if there's that much in that section of the county, it's
all
everywhere.
over the county.
It's all over.
It's all over, yeah.
If-
Jackson would be just as interesting if you just dug into it.
Okay.
And a lot of people have, it is slowly. And I think the interest just gets more and more and more. We certainly know that from what we do out there.
Yeah.
We try to stay in that area because it would just get so big,
Yeah.
we couldn't do it.
Well, the restoration of the church, the discovery of the signatures of Union soldiers, and the restoration of the Masonic Lodge that's continuing.
They had a meeting there last month, the first one in 100 years.
Years, okay. And the fact that there was an initiation chamber in that church. I mean,
Yes.
there's so many things that are fascinating there. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thanks. Pleasure
I
to be
appreciate
here.
the time. Check their work out. It's bigblackcreekhistorical.com. And it's work that's not going to end.
No,
Thanks to you.
thank you.
Billy King with us. Thanks to you, Billy, for doing this. Thanks to you for being with us. Stay with us here at EPlusTV 6. This is the place where the dialogue continues.